You're watching the Movie Dogs. We bark about the movies and nothing but the movies. Welcome to the Doghouse. We take a bite out of the movies. Subscribe to the Movie Dogs and become part of our film-loving community. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click the bell for updates. See you in the next review.
Tired of your yard looking like the jungles of the rainforest? Then look no further than to Franklin's Lawn and Landscaping. With 2 free estimates. They'll take those neglected areas like patios and backyards and turn them into party central, folks. Can't find your front door? No problem. Franklin's Lawn and Landscaping will help you find your way home. Rediscover your sidewalks and pathways with precision cutting you've never seen anywhere else. We'll even take care of those ugly spots where nobody ever ventures off to. Franklin's Lawn and Landscaping will make sure that you will have the best landscaping work done and be proud to come home to a immaculate house. So get in touch with owner Charles Franklin. Franklin's Lawn and Landscaping, 352-601-7260. While you're at it, check them out on Facebook.
Host, William Baxter.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of the Movie Dog Show. We're back into the 1980s and we're going to be a little wild in this episode, a little rude and crude, like most TNA comedies were back in the 80s. It was a different time, kind of started a little bit in the late 70s, but in the 80s, it was very prominent, and this movie was the architect of those type of movies. I am talking about Porky's that came out in 82, I believe it was, no, or 1981. But it was just this raunchy comedy. I mean, compared to nowadays, I mean, nothing. I mean, this movie, you couldn't do this movie nowadays, but I've seen raunchier movies in the late 90s, early 2000s. But again, the type of comedy that is gone to pass, and I don't know if we'll ever get to that type of comedy ever again. But, I mean, good or bad. But what really is the thing about this movie that kind of surprised me, the fact that it was successful, but that its director and co-writer is Bob Clark. This man has such a diverse, kind of like Dick Donner, did a lot of different movies, but this man is known to, when it comes to the horror, family, and comedy movies. He did Black Christmas, which John Carpenter has stated he was inspired on how to shoot Halloween. It was one of the first of its kind. Black Christmas has been remade twice already, but nothing can ever surpass that original one. It's a wonderful film. And he's also known for one of the biggest and most famous Christmas movies, family Christmas movies of all time, A Christmas Story. That's right. The guy who made Porky's 1 and 2 made A Christmas Story. One of the most cherished family films in, the late 20th century, and still is to this day. Very respected and loved film. And I always found it funny when I found out years later who it was that did these movies. But again, Bob Clark was inspired by Porky's when it came to his high school years and growing up in South Florida, around Fort Lauderdale and stuff like that. Angel Beach is a fictional town, but it's molded after what in the late 1950s, early 1960s of what Fort Lauderdale was. It also, it's funny, when it comes to these movies, especially if you watch the second one, which I actually liked a little bit better, there are hidden meanings, social meanings in this film. And in the second one, apparently in the second one, but tolerance, and, anti-Semitic rhetoric and racism is kind of, it is frowned upon. I mean, none of these teenage hijinks and everything overshadow that. Yeah, there's a lot of nudity in this movie, especially when it comes to the shower scene, which we'll mention in a little bit. But the tone of the film is very lighthearted. The only mean-spirited things is one of the characters' father, who was a very mean and abusive prick and bigot, and his son kind of resembles that a bit, and he's resentful of one of the other guys who is Jewish, but he overcomes that and becomes friends with the other student, and and there's some very lighthearted moments and very tender moments too, if you believe it or not. If you watch Porky's, don't judge a book by its cover is really what I'm saying here when it comes to this movie. Yes, all three films. Yeah, there's three. There's actually four, but I'll get into that later. But there are some meanings, some good points that Bob Clark was trying to make. And as I said, a lot of the hijinks was kind of inspired through his life as a teenager, and that's usually sometimes how you get the best stories. A lot of character actors were involved in this film. Really, the most standout person in this movie, though, is Kim Cattrall, who we all know had a very good career throughout the 1980s, and in the 90s, she played Samantha on Sex and the City, where she really, kicked her career into overdrive, and still is beloved and remembered for that role. She was in a lot of movies in the 1980s. The first Police Academy, which kind of falls in this category of the raunchy comedies or R-rated comedies. She was also in Star Trek VI and Mannequin. As I said, she had a decent career and really kicked into overdrive in the 1990s with Sex and the City, as I said. You'll see the parent, the adopted parents of. They don't share a scene together. I think they were still married. They were married around this time, but the parents from Webster, they were the adopted parents. They're in this. The father plays Porky's brother, and she plays a prostitute in this movie. I always thought that she was related to Bob Clark. I don't, because she has the same name, but I don't know if she ever was or not. But yeah, and you'll see some familiar faces. Dan Morrow, who played Pee Wee, he was the prominent character in this, and he played the character in the first three. As I said, there was a fourth one which the rights holder just made just to make it for the sake of keeping the rights, and it never. I think it got a video on demand release, but it's never been released on physical media, or it's no longer available at all. But it was called Pimpin' Pee Wee, Porky's 4 or whatever. But and then of course there was two more theatrically, Porky's 2 the next day, and then Porky's Revenge. But I still think to me Porky's 2 is my favorite out of the three. But Porky's Revenge had a really good theme song, High School Nights, which was a really good song. But as I did, going off track here, but again, the big character though was Beulah Ballbreaker, and I can't remember the actress's name to save my life. And of course, the main, the character that the place is named after, Porky's. They were the real big standout characters of this, because they're the adults that these high schoolers are, kind of, the obstacles that they have to face are these two people. Porky's, rip off the guys, even though they're underage and they get in there, they seek revenge against them because he made fools of them. And, being teenagers, they shouldn't be in the establishment like Porky's. And when it comes to Beulah Ballbreaker, she was just, you find out why her, in the third one a little bit more, why she's the way she is. But she's, these are the main antagonists. One's more dangerous than the other. I kind of think Beulah Ballbreaker is, when you find out what she when she caught the boys, looking through the shower peepholes. But again, that was one of the that as I'm going to get to is one of the pivotal moments of this movie where you got a lot of frontal nudity, and sometimes it was nothing new at that time. It had already been done. The Last Picture Show is one of the ones I can remember was probably one of the earliest ones to allow it when it comes to mainstream films. But this one was just, a little more up and close, if you want to say that. As I said, I don't know if you really can do that anymore. I haven't really paid too much attention to modern cinema as of late. But again, unless you count, Nymphomaniac Volumes 1 and 2. But this movie, just as I said, despite what I guess you can call it negative, and the some of the crudeness of it, I still think that the messages that it does give overshadows all that. As I said, it does have its light-hearted moments, and it is very well done. It's tucked in there to where you are actually kind of taken aback, like, oh, well, that was unexpected. But again, you feel good that you got that little message in. And that's the best thing about it. And that's one thing you can say about the first two films, really, and Bob Clark's writing abilities, is that he has a subtleness to him. And that, he wanted to deliver a message amongst all this crazy, raunchy comedy, that he was able to deliver, I think, a very underrated film now. As I said, you got to look past. Don't judge a book by its cover. You got to look past everything that's in there. Of course, you have to. I mean, if you can find it, the PG-13 versions, as I saw them originally on USA Network, they're still funny. The movies were still funny, without the blatant outright nudity. But as I said, I mean, it's not as much as you think it would be through the whole urban myth of whatever Porky's gave us kids as the eager when we're preteens, we're like, oh, I can't wait to watch Porky's or anything like that. And when you watch it, you're like, oh, well, it wasn't as much as I thought. But you also get the messages that Bob Clark was trying to push through the material at hand. And I don't think Bob Clark was ever apologetic about it and everything like that. I mean, the man, he moved on. He moved on. He did several more movies based into the Ralphie and his families. When it comes to the Christmas Story universe and into the stories that was written. So, I mean, unfortunately, he passed away in the 2000s in a car accident. But he was a very diverse director. Horror, family, comedies. Of any type. He tackled a lot of different genres, and that's what really makes a good director. So, I personally would say check him out. Check out Porky's 2. I mean, Porky's 3. I mean, the cast got cut in half. A lot of people didn't come back. Bob Clark didn't come back. But as I said, especially in Porky's 2, there's a lot of social meaning in it, and it really tackles those taboo subjects, even for the time that it was set in too, as well as we were going through a lot of those social breakthroughs in American society. So, again, folks, I'm not going to discourage. I will encourage you all to check out Porky's and make the judgment call for yourself, folks. Again, we're still here in the 1980s. I want to thank Josh for all the stuff he's done so far, and that he's going to be joining me for our Highlander review and the Empire Strikes Back review. So check those out. They're about to come up here soon, and then boom, we'll be back into present time before you know it, folks. All right, folks, that's all the time I got. Again, check out Porky's. It's not as grossed out as you all believe it is, or a lot of people may remember. So, again, don't judge a book by its cover, as the old saying goes. All right, folks, that's all the time I got. Thanks for watching. Please keep on watching. Bye.
Hey, like and subscribe. Be sure to check out more of the content on the Movie Dawgs channel. All the reviews and cool remarks and cool guests like me, Josh Church, the owner of River Monster Comics. We are in Denellen, Florida, so if you're ever in the area, come by and check out the shop. Get some cool nerd stuff, comics, pops, toys, whatever. And swing by and just have some cool conversations about movies and all things pop culture. We appreciate you. See you soon.